नमामि गौडपादं च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे। ॐ सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणि नमोऽस्तुते। नारायणि नमोऽस्तुते। शरणागतदीनार्तपरित्राणपरायणे सर्वस्यार्तिहरे देवी नारायणि नमोऽस्तुते। ओम ओम नारायण नारायण नारायण। ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೀಳುತ್ತಾ ಇವೆ. ಪುಸ್ತಕ ರಾಶಿ ರಾಶಿ ರಾಶಿ. ಆಯಿತು. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಒಬ್ಬನು ಸುರಥ ಎಂಬ ರಾಜ, ಒಬ್ಬ ವೈಶ್ಯ. ವಿ ವರ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸಿಂಗ್. ಓಕೆ. Oh, I am sorry. We are supposed to speak in English. Okay. I am supposed to, as advised by our Ram Prakasha. Otherwise, I would have spoken in Indian language, mainly Kannada only. So it will be useful to others, for non-Kannadigas who do not understand Kannada. So Suratha in the king and the Vaishya, both the people reached the ashram. Both are highly disturbed. So two things are there. One is there is a physical loss. The king lost his kingdom, and the Vaishya, who was a rich man, who had a good family, good in the sense a big family, wife and children and all, they, out of his greed for money, they were not, they didn't have respect or love and respect for his father or his wife, his husband, but they were interested in his property. See, so he acquired property, not that he was fond of too much property, but he loved the people. Therefore, for sake of his people, he acquired property. He acquired property for sake of his people. So for him, more than property, love of the people was important. But those people, see, if you develop your children only out of interest for money, that person also will grow up with money only, in taste for money only. So the values are important. People have to be taught values. Just don't give the, don't just show the money. Values are important. So somewhere some mistake happened. So our Shastra says that the relations are due to your punya papa. That Niti Shastra, there is one shloka. Runanu bandha rupena pashu patni suta alaya. Pashu patni suta alaya. Your house, property, children, wife, all this is due to your past karma. The idea is the relation stands until your karma remains. Karma remains unexhausted. Once karma is exhausted, the relationships disappear. Disappear or they break. See, two things happen. Sometimes the people may pass away, or they may go to another place. They just shift their places. They go away far off place. Like the modern children are going away to America, somewhere far off. Or even if they stay with you, the relation is not smooth because the runa is over. They have no sympathy for you, they don't care for you, because the runa is over. If you expect more, you will only be frustrated. You will only be disappointed. So you have to acquire special punya again to be cared and loved by people. But anyway, so these two people, that's a different topic. We will not go much detail into it. We will just keep to the topic alone. These people went to the Rishi. I asked him, "Oh Gurugale, oh Guruji, this is our problem. What could be the reason? I am suffering like this." The king says, "And my friend this Vaishya, Samadhi, his name is Samadhi, and he is a Suratha. I am Suratha. Ratha means who has got a good Ratha, good chariot, and is a Samadhi. Samadhi means an Ekagrata, but unfortunately there is no Ekagrata for him. He is highly disturbed. Samadhi means Samadhanam, a mind which is relaxed and peaceful. He doesn't have a peace at the moment. Though his name is good, at the moment he doesn't have. So this is what we are suffering. See, my problem is I lost my kingdom, and I feel that the kingdom which is in the hands of my ministers, I am worried whether they are ruling properly or abusing the money and wasting away the money, and later they will have to suffer. The kingdom will disintegrate, or some other king will occupy and then go away. We'll lose everything. Then my friend Samadhi Vaishya, he is unable to forget his wife and children. He loves them so much. They cheated him. He is deeply hurt. He is unable to forget them. That means there is a love, but the love you cannot withdraw. He is unable to withdraw. Withdraw means he is unable to forget them. Some people who are little more mature people, you love people. If the other person is too much cheating and he doesn't deserve your love, you can forget him and go away. Mature people can easily forget and develop interest. They shift their love to somebody else, or in some other topic, some other issue, and just they forget it. But he is unable to forget because his love was sincere. This Samadhi Vaishya's love was sincere. It is only they people who are hurting him. So he is unable to forget it. So he is deeply hurt. Now what are we to do? So the Rishi, his name is, I think I tell you the name of the Rishi also is written here. The Medha Rishi. Okay. His name is Medha. Medha Rishi. He answers, see, he is teaching them, understand the very human nature. People don't want to go deep into it generally. They want immediately shortcut replies, shortcut solutions. Now, two types of people. Some people, they just want immediately superficial symptomatic treatment. They are deeply disturbed. And now the disturb subsides, your attention is shifted, that's all, you forget the problem and continue your life. People don't want to go into the root of the problem, whether about physical disease or about any other socio-economic problem or even relationships also. You take the social problem, political problem. When there is riots, people come onto the streets and scream and shout, and government sends the people, yes, we'll take care of it and all those things. When it subsides, that's all, it doesn't mind it, it minds its own business, things are over. That means people want to address the symptoms alone. Physically also, when you fall sick, when there is a little stomach problem or a headache, and a doctor gives you one painkiller, then it's okay. Now you don't want to go to the root of the problem. Why I am getting the headache often? There must be something root of it. Oh, nobody is interested. You just give us a tablet, immediately pain is relieved and I will go away. So therefore allopathy is becoming attractive in spite of its bhayankara, dangerous side effects, because it hurts you indirectly, it harms you indirectly, but helps you directly. The biggest cheat is allopathy. Okay, don't be angry with me. If you want, you can listen to B.M. Hegde. I too listen to him. B.M. Hegde or D.M. Hegde, I forgot. B.M. Hegde, I suppose. Yeah, B.M. Hegde's YouTube, you can listen to him. He was a good allopathic doctor, but it's a very nice man. Not only man, a very wise man, very understood. He's not fanatic of anything, not even Ayurveda. Wherever there is good, he appreciates allopathy, he appreciates Ayurveda, he appreciates homeopathy, he appreciates yoga, appreciates wherever there is good. So he's a balanced person, not a fanatic of any one system, any one particular system. Wherever it is good, allopathy has its own good points. Sometimes it is very useful, very helpful, so you can take help of it. We don't say that allopathy should be totally wiped out. Nobody wants that, unless he is a totally fanatic. Nobody wants that, but it should be understood properly and used wisely. That's all it means. So you can listen to B.M. Hegde. You want to learn. Okay. So the symptomatic problem, see the human nature, why allopathy is working. Working in the sense allopathy is becoming popular. It is harming but becoming popular. Now you see that why people are so stubbornly following the system which is harming them, because it harms indirectly. The harm is invisible, the benefit is instantly visible. People want instant benefits. Therefore, our Shastra says, see, the person, you can understand here the contrast with modern knowledges, modern systems with Veda. Veda knows two things: what is really good for the people, and at the same time people want certain immediate superficial relief and immediate benefit. They don't want to go into the root of the problem and solve, because going into the root of the problem needs more thinking, and you require a more deeper change in your life. You require a change of your, nobody wants. If you give, I have seen some doctors, they diagnose your whole system. Supposing I give you one example, because this is useful to understand the Veda. I'm not wasting your time, please listen to me. So I'm not wasting your time. I really want you to understand how Veda works. Vedic vision. If you go to some doctors, seeing the symptoms, they say, I understand, but if you want it to be permanently solved, let us go deeply into it. Then he wants to talk to you your lifestyle. He asks detailed questions, your lifestyle, food you eat, how you work, what are the situations that pressurize you, bring stress and strain on you, and how you are responding, reacting. Are there any wrong way of in your behaving and thinking and eating and interacting? He wants to take the whole data of you. Then he will give you certain guidelines which changes your whole life. And that naturally he will take half an hour or 45 minutes. I met one doctor like that. He was taking all these details. I appreciated it. You are a very good doctor. You are taking so details. You want to change the person from the root. You know what he told? Swamiji, nobody likes me. I have no patients at all. I have got very few patients because nobody likes my way of treatment. Because they want instantly immediate superficial symptomatic treatment and just they forget it. Again, problems come when this thing. You are the rare few people who are appreciating me, the doctor says. So people just don't want. So if you go deeply into it, people don't understand. Therefore, in such situation, what should you do? What most of the people do is, okay, let us exploit the weakness of the people and become popular and make money. It's over. Okay. People want symptomatic treatment. Give some immediate instant relief. It may harm you later, deeply, indirectly, unknowingly, unconsciously. Don't bother. He will be hurt and you will get more money. That's enough. Again he comes with same problem after next week or 10 days. Again you make money. Again you. Whether social problem, economic problem, educational problem, even education system is becoming commercial like that. Everything is like that. Veda says, no. If Veda wanted, Veda also could do like that and become very popular. Like nowadays you have got modern science is very popular because it harms you indirectly and appears to be helping you superficially. Appears to be helping you superficially but harms you indirectly and deeply at a deeper level. So Veda also could have done it, but it doesn't do. Okay? But Veda at the same time takes into consideration human weaknesses. This approach is required. You have to take into consideration their human weaknesses. At the same time, don't cheat them by giving a superficial treatment. Okay? But at the same time, offer something. How to combine this? Isn't it a very strange and difficult thing? The patient or any problem, not only patient, a person with any problem. Any suffering, any problem, he wants money, he wants marriage, he wants children, he wants pleasures, he wants worldly sukha, he wants health. But he doesn't want to take a risk and doesn't want to do more punya, more tapas, more sadhana he doesn't want to do. But he wants instant relief and then forget the problem. Again when the problem comes on, he will think of it. Now you can't ignore persons, you have to keep the person's nature in view. And his immediate need also you have to take care. Immediate need you have to give him immediate relief. At the same time make him to follow certain sadhana which will have a long-term effect. That means Vedic interest is he wants to wake him up and become aware of the long-term interest. But he is interested in short-term interest. So you have to have a combination of long-term interest and short-term interest. Long-term interest is not in his conscious mind. The person who comes with a problem, his long-term interest is not in his conscious mind. Though everybody wants it, but he is not conscious of it. See, this is the thing Veda understands like a mother. That's why Shankaracharya calls it Veda is a Sahasra Matruvar, like 1,000 mothers. See, the person who came with a symptom, he wants immediate symptomatic relief. He is not thinking of it permanently solving the problem. But supposing if you solve the problem, does he not like it? He likes it, but he is not conscious of it. He has no mind, he has no patience, he is just superficially living it. So therefore, it is something like a mother. Baby is interested in immediate solution. Mother is interested in a long-term solution. So mother, even though baby doesn't like it, gives some kind of methods to him, which tell him you do like this. Mother loves him, cares for him, threatens him, does something, ask him to do certain unnecessary things. It looks that it is unnecessary for the baby. But mother says, no, you do it like this. Baby doesn't understand why mother asks me to do like that. Don't go outside. Don't play in the hot sunlight. In the hot sunlight in summers, it would go to 43 degrees. We would play. Afternoon, when the mother and they were sleeping or resting somewhere, we would slip out and skip out and then try to play in the hot sunlight. They would say, don't go out, don't go out. They will say, but in the hot sunlight, 2 o'clock in the sunlight, we'll play. 42 degrees, 43 degrees. Now they will do their own tricks. Their own tricks they will do. The methods they follow which the baby can't understand. But baby has certain attraction for certain things. So keeping the baby's interest, attraction, conscious interest. One is unconscious interest and conscious interest. Unconscious interest is a real need, but baby is not aware of its need. Baby is not aware of its need, but it wants it. It needs it, but it is not conscious of it. But mother is conscious of it. See, here is a contradiction. Similarly, Veda is aware of human needs, which the person himself is not aware. He wants immediate superficial treatment. Okay? Now you require a very clever way of handling. Compassionate and a clever way. That's why Vedic all methods and do all those things. People don't understand. Oh, that's why people told whoever denies Veda, rejects Veda is the biggest papi. Because Veda has got such a compassion which even you don't understand. Veda understands you better than your own understanding or your own leaders' understanding. Your own modern westernized leaders, modern civilizational leaders. More than your civilizational leaders, more than your industrial communistic leaders, your political, social, economic. Okay? You have got your political guides and leaders, economic guides and leaders like communism and all isms. Okay, capitalism and so on. All these isms, they talk to you nicely like advertisement. Advertisement talks you sweetly as if it is in your interest, but in fact it is his interest. It is his interest, he will put the interest in you and he will make you interested and ask you to buy, and ultimately you will suffer, waste your money. And more you suffer. He loves. Again, if you come with another problem, he'll say, no, we'll take care of you. Please come. And lovingly, he will put another injection and put more money, take more money from you. Is a very ruthless fellow, just no compassion. Veda is unlike that. Therefore, such a Veda who is more motherly, 1,000 times more motherly than your normal mother. Okay? A person who ignores Veda, rejects Veda, even without understanding, also believe it, we say. You may not understand, still love the Veda. Even in your ignorance, do respect it. They may call it a fanatics. See, they call it a fanaticism. Okay? When you, without understanding Veda, why should we respect? This is the modern man's thinking. People say you are incapable of understanding Veda, therefore accept Veda, respect Veda, follow Veda. People say, my God, it is fanaticism. First you understand. You don't know even the spelling of what is fanaticism. Don't talk nonsense. Okay? There are certain religions, certain ideologies, they brainwash you, condition you. Then there you are calling them fanatic applies, but not here. See, 2 levels. When you are emotionally carried away with impulses, desires, immediate pressing desires, you get carried away, you are not capable of understanding, then you say believe Veda blindly. But if you are capable of understanding, we'll explain to you also why Veda is great. Okay? There is no explanation, you only have to believe. Whether learned person, ordinary person, grown-up person also, there is no explanation in their religions. Why their books, holy books to be accepted? There are no explanations at all. But here in Veda, 2 levels of teaching. If you are prepared, we will explain to you how Veda is in you. Veda takes your interest in view, your long interest in your view. long interest in its view. If you are incapable of understanding, then follow blindly. So we give two levels of teaching. One is accept blindly, tentatively accept blindly. Therefore, we don't call it fanaticism because it has got a logical explanation. Why Veda is great and all those things, it can explain to you, but you are not capable, you have no patience, and you are not capable at the moment. Therefore, at the moment, accept blindly. This blind acceptance of the Veda is a tentative. Okay? Tentative. When you grow up, we will explain to you why Veda is great. We have got two levels of teaching. At the moment, you have no patience, you are not capable, therefore we ask you to accept. Their religions, even if you are prepared, even if you are capable of understanding, they are incapable because there is only blind belief only. Note this difference. You don't equate Veda with any other religion, and don't call it all our superstition. Veda is also asking you to believe, accept it, don't underestimate it. That's why our Shastra says, because modern people are condemning our Shastras like that. There are certain statements in our Smritis, those who reject Veda is a Nastika, he is a wicked man, all that we say. They say, oh, all religions are telling like that, so Veda is also equally fanatic. Just they sweepingly they make a conclusion. This is what is utter foolishness. Our people are only capable of foolishness, not understanding. Hindus have lost all brain, the special Hinduness, the special wisdom, the unconscious wisdom. See, even if you are not scholar, Hindus had some wisdom. Even now you can see little bit our illiterates. Illiterates are wiser. They cannot, ideologically they cannot argue with you and convince you, explain you and convince you. But their beliefs, their understanding, their outlook, their certain ideas have got deeper meaning. A learned man can explain to them, can explain their understanding, their values, their ideas. Somebody else can explain, but their ideas are very explainable, understandable ideas and thinking. They have got good thinking. Only thing is they are given directly to follow, and those explanations are reserved with other learned people. But they are all very noble ideas, noble values. There is no fanaticism, there is no barbarism in our ideas. But other religions, and not only religion, even economic ideas like communism, Marxism, also there is a rashness, rudeness and imposition, controlling, brainwashing. Here we don't brainwash, but we tentatively, in his ignorant state, give him a tentative belief, like a baby. If you ask the baby to believe something, otherwise you threaten, you frighten him, it is not brainwashing, because teacher has an explanation, mother, father has an explanation, but baby is incapable of understanding. As the baby grows, we will give the explanation. You have an explanation, but at the moment you don't give, you can't call it fanatic. But if you don't have an explanation at all and you are asked to believe is the only explanation for belief, that's all. You believe it, don't question. Even if it is illogical, believe. That is definitely fanaticism and barbarism. But here, if you are capable, we will explain. When you are not, you believe it. And at a later stage, you will understand it, we will explain. Therefore, our belief is a tentative, so that you will understand it at a little later stage. Therefore, you can see the ideas are very healthy ideas. Even the beliefs are very healthy beliefs, because they have got logical explanation. Anyway, so we leave it. So it will become unnecessary diversion. This much is enough. So our Shastra, Veda means all our Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Tantra. Okay, all these four are the Vedas. We have got Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, 4 Vedas. Now there are other Shastras evolved as a commentaries of Veda. They also can be called Veda only. What are they? Shruti, Smriti, Manu, Yajnavalkya, Parashara, etc. Smritis, second Veda. All 4 Vedas are first Veda. Smritis are second Veda. Puranas are third Veda. Tantra Shastra, Agama is 4th Veda. Like this we can say, in a broader sense, we have got 4 Vedas. Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Agama. Now you see it covers the entire Hinduism, entire Hindu society. So Shastras take care of you, which you don't understand at the moment, but you need it. You will understand it a little later stage, or as you grow, you will understand. As you grow little bit, you will understand. You can give that much of explanation. You grow little more, again explanation. Therefore, Veda has to keep your larger interest in view, long interest in view, and you have got your own immediate interest. There should be a combination of it. Therefore, Veda gives you, for a smaller problem, it gives you little bigger solution. Okay, you have got a small problem that could be solved with a small thing. It tells, do Parayana. Only for 9 days you take Parayana and do it. But do we need such a big Parayana for a small problem? Doesn't matter, do it. When you get Punyam, the Punyam will be advanced, preserved for you extra. See, you need one thing, a small thing, a pen. Pen cost you maybe, I think, 1 rupee. No, in our days 1 rupee. Now maybe, I don't know, 20 rupees probably, I have no idea. 5 rupees, okay, let us say. It was only some 50 paisa or 75 paisa in our days. So now maybe some 5 rupees, okay. 5 rupees or 10 rupees, let us take it. 10 rupees, 1 pen. For sake of pen, you go to your father or somebody and they'll give you 20 rupees. They'll make you work for earn 20 rupees. What happened? You need only 10 rupees, but extra 10 he makes you to work, so that the extra 10 you can preserve it. It will be useful to you at the next time, later time. Similarly, when you need to solve some problem, Shastra asks you to do some discipline, some sadhana, some upasana, some bhakti, so that with the help of this sadhana, your present problem will be solved, but you will be earning extra punyam that will be useful to you at another point. It makes you to earn extra punyam, and also it changes your certain discipline, certain values, certain behavior. Okay, certain behavior also it changes. That means it puts you in the right track. First you will be introduced into one God, one Ishtadevata Diksha, you get it. And you will get a Satsangatya also. You will get a Guru or a Satsangatya. And then, so every problem, if a person comes with a problem, in the name of solving the problem, you solve it immediately. But also gradually pull him into a deeper level of life. Make him aware of a deeper need. So ask him to follow certain other sadhanas and put him on the right track. So this is how Veda does it. See how Veda does it very compassionately, cleverly. It solves immediate problem. You can't ignore the immediate problem. Immediate problem you solve. In the name of solving it, put him into a much more bhakti, sadhana, other values, other discipline. Now you see 9 days you take Diksha and follow certain discipline. At least some of the people after this, during these 9 days, they find that it was how disciplined, mind was very nice, because we gave up lot of addictions, certain pleasures and certain dependency on external objects you gave up. You find that it was a very nice life. Some people extend it even after 9 days also, they will continue it for some more days. I have seen some Ayyappa Diksha people, after 40 days over, they will continue for another 1 month, 2 months, 3 months also. And once I met one boy and he tells me, Guruji, some people make fun of me, my friends. Hey, Diksha is over, you have visited already that Shabarimalai. Then why are you continuing Diksha? You are doing wrong, it is a papa. My friends argue with me. I tell Swamiji, those 40 days, mind was very nice. I was disciplined, taking bath, daily doing puja and bhajana, food and other things, discipline. That gave me very joy, very happiness. And I am continuing for a few more days. What is wrong this one? I told it's not only wrong, it is good and it is must do it. Our Shastra says you can do as many months as possible, or round the year also you do it. It is good for you. I felt very happy. Yeah. When you do it for a few days, you will feel inspired to continue it for some more time. That's good. It gives you good values, good discipline, Shraddha, Bhakti and peace of mind and all that. Strength, spiritual strength. Okay. Therefore, Veda keeps in view and it helps you to do. You come with a superficial problem. Guru addresses your deeper problem also along with the superficial. Okay. The immediate problem should not be ignored, but your long-term problem also should be included with it and taught. That is the thing. Okay. Now he says, Guruji, yeah, I understand. He says, if you give logical explanation, many people don't understand. There is, of course, logic, but you have to put it little bit of faith in. A person who is highly disturbed, faith works with him rather than logic. Okay. Faith, because faith also don't underestimate, because faith is an English term. We don't know how to use it, because since I am speaking in English, we are using the words faith, but you have to use our Shraddha. Shraddhe in Kannada, Shraddha is Sanskrit, but Shraddha is a beautiful word. Not only word, it's a beautiful idea. It is unlike belief and faith of English and those Western religions. their belief is different. It is much more deeper. Shraddha is the quality of the heart, not the concept which you believe, the idea which you believe. For them, faith means believing an idea, a dogma, a concept. For us, faith doesn't mean believing a concept or an idea. Faith is the very quality of the heart. Faith is the very nature of the heart. Okay, the state of the heart. Once we say it is a nature of your heart, nature of your mind. Second point about the faith is faith qualitatively differs. This is one more thing about our Shraddha. Shraddha is Shraddhamayoyam Purushaha Yoya Shraddha Sa Eva Saha, Bhagavad Gita says. Shraddhamayoyam Purushaha. Shraddha is the very personality of a person. Shraddha is you. Your very personality is Shraddha. Your whole body, mind, thinking, feelings, attitude put together, your whole complete personality is called Shraddha. I think the word faith or belief doesn't convey this idea at all. You read Bhagavad Gita, how he explains? Shraddhamayoyam Purushaha. What a beautiful explanation. You can't even imagine. What is Shraddha? Shraddha is the whole personality is Shraddha. Your way of talking, thinking, believing, feeling, relating, emotions, all put together. All put together, complete personality is Shraddha. But Shraddha, one more thing we have to know about Shraddha is it has got different levels. Tamasa, Rajasa, Sattvika. Shraddha is qualitatively varying, or it is a gradational. Shraddha can be Tamasic Shraddha, it can be Rajasa Shraddha, it can be Sattvika Shraddha. Shraddha is the nature of your heart, nature of your personality. In that, it is of different levels. So we talk of that Shraddha, not of a belief in one concept, one idea. Concept and idea is only tentative. Tentative. A concept and idea is a tentative. It is the quality of your heart that is important. Therefore, we call it Shraddha. Okay. No, I think it is enough, because let me not go into more details. That becomes another bigger topic. So just relevant to our topic alone we say, and we come to the topic. So he says, animals, the consciousness of animal is too superficial. In the first 3 shlokas he says, Jnanamasti samasyasya jantor vishaya gochare. The knowledge of animals, the consciousness of animals is too rudimentary, too superficial. It is conscious of its food, it is conscious of another animal, it is conscious of human beings, it is conscious of certain natural needs. Okay, that's all. It is not much deeply, it has got little bit of feelings also, but even feelings also like baby's feelings, not so deeply involved as a human nature. Human mind is much deeper. Human mind means a human mind can feel, can modify the feelings. Animal can't purify the feelings. Animal can't catch the higher, deeper level of feelings. It has got some feelings, that's all. If you take care of the animal, it will be fond of you, it will come to you again and again, that's enough. It can't go deeper than that. But human being can purify the feelings, can purify your Shraddha. You can go much deeper into it. Therefore, human mind is much more capable. I think these shlokas are very beautiful, worth reading. I just gave you summary of it, but those who are interested can go much more detail into it. So he says, Manusha manujavyagra sabhilasha sutan prati. So man can feel the feelings. Therefore, his feelings are much deeper. Because of his consciousness. Therefore, tathapi mamatavarte mohagarte nipat lobhat pratyupakaraya nanvetan kim napashyasi. Okay. Now, therefore, the reason man is more gets involved, more gets identified and disturbed much deeply into his personality. He carries the wound in his heart. He carries the hurt and guilt goes deeply into his personality, remains for days and months together. And it whole affects your personality. Because man can feel much from the deeper level compared to animal. And this is where he says, there is a Maya. Why this happened? Because there is a Maya. Maya is a very peculiar, deeper term which explains many things at many levels. So for common man to just say it's a mystic word, mystic in the sense it has got a different levels of meanings. So it has got a different levels of meaning according to the need of according to the level of the student. We use the word Maya. So Maya can mean Ragadvesha, Maya can mean misunderstanding, Maya can mean the world, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, Adhyatmika. The same Maya can be interpreted as an Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, Adhyatmika, different levels, different angles. So Maya is a very loaded, vast word. It encompasses many points. Anyway, so we shouldn't quarrel into it. In Vedantic context, it has got in a specific sense. But here he says, little more broader sense. He says, Tathapi mamata varte mohagarte nipatitaha mahamaya prabhavena samsara sthitikarina. Maya is goddess. Goddess doesn't mean Maya alone. Goddess means Saguna Brahman. It is a pure Satchidananda Swarupini. At the same time, the power with which the world is created, sustained and destroyed. Srishti Sthiti Laya Karanam. The power with which Sarvajna, Sarvashaktimati, and then what you call Karmadhyaksha, Karmaphaladata, blesses compassionately and then controls, guides the jivas and punishes. That means Saguna Brahma. Saguna Brahma. Now we generally think Maya means only Prakriti and Paramatma. We divide it. I think this is a Sankhya Prakriya. Nobody should do that. That is a thing. I don't know who created it. It becomes a big problem. Maya means Prakriti. Prakriti and Brahma, calling them as a two, this is a deep conditioning of the Sankhya philosophy. But whereas in Puranas, Vedanta, in all our Shastras, whether Dvaitin, Vishishtadvaitin, Advaitin, Nimbarka, Vallabha, all people, we don't consider this Prakriti and Paramatma as two. Prakriti is one aspect of Paramatma. It is the Sankhyas, they taught Prakriti as a separate. It is the Vaisheshikas taught Prakriti as a separate. Vaisheshika means a Nayayika. Sankhya Vaisheshika put Prakriti as totally separate. But in the Puranas and Vedanta, in all our Shastras, Vedic culture, Prakriti is not separate. Prakriti is one aspect of Paramatma. From the worldly, Vyavaharic aspect is Prakriti, Paramarthik aspect is Paramatma, that's all. They are not two, there are only two ways of looking the one truth. Okay. Therefore, when you say Mahamaya Prakriti, Mahamaya or Prakriti is Devi. Devi or Mahamaya Prakriti means people again have their own misunderstandings. Let me tell you, Prakriti, Mahamaya or Devi or Durga or Lalita or any Devi, whatever Devi, Sharada or Lalita Amma, whatever Amba you feel, we say that she is a Maya. Generally, you get to hear in Pravachanas that she is a Maya, she is a Prakriti, she is a power of Devi. Then in Saundarya Lahari also, first shloka says, what is that? Shiva Shaktya Yukto. Shiva and Shakti, you call them two. This kind of division is confusing to people. Shiva Shakti, don't call this two. Shiva's Shakti, don't call Shiva and Shakti. Shiva and Shakti, using these two words is confusing. Never use two words, they are one. Shiva's Shakti, Shakti is Shiva, that's all. Chaitanya Rupam Shiva, and the same Shiva is in a Saguna Rupam, we call it Shakti. Only thing is you talk of it as a more a womanly form. But man, woman is only for human. Man, woman are two separate individuals in human life. But in Paramatma, there is no two. It is only the way of looking. One way you call woman, another way you call man, both are same. It's like body and mind. Do you say body is man and mind is woman? Or do you say mind is man and body is woman? Body, mind, both are same. It's a way of calling, that's all. Body, mind, both are same. It is only a Sthula aspect, it is a Sukshma aspect. It is a Sukshma, it is a Sthula, that's all. Mind is Sukshma, body is Sthula. Like water, solidified is there. Ice cube and water. Tell me, water is Sukshma, ice cube is Sthula. Now, water means, does it ice cube or liquid? Tell me. Is liquid water or ice is water? Water is a common name for both. Okay? Water is common name for liquid as well as ice. Generally, we use water and ice. No, that's wrong. Water and ice are not two separate words. Ice is also water. Okay? Ice cube is water. Liquid is, you can say cube, ice cube and liquid water. Liquid water and solid water. Water is a common term for both. Liquid water and ice cube. So water can exist in two forms. Similarly, tentative, ice cube is a tentative form, that's all. Therefore, similarly, the Devata, same Paramatma, you can call it a male, you can call it a female. Male, female are like liquid and what you call a solid. Whether you call it liquid, whether you call it solid, it is water only. Okay. Whether you call whether you male form, other call female form, it is Satchidananda Swarupini. So you can't say that Devi is only Prakriti. Devi is also Satchidananda Rupini with Prakriti. With Prakriti Satchidananda Rupini, Saguna Brahma is Devi. Shiva, Saguna Brahma. Shiva along with Prakriti. Vishnu along with Prakriti. Any god, a Rama or Krishna, whomever you take, Satchidananda Swarupa along with Prakriti is called Saguna Brahma. That Saguna Brahma is male, Saguna Brahma is female. Female don't call when you say Devi only Prakriti and not Paramatma. This is where we make mistake. Not only make mistake, we get confused. Why should we worship Prakriti? Devi is Prakriti. This is what some people criticize. Devi is not Prakriti. Devi is Saguna Brahma. Whatever you call Shiva, whatever you call Krishna, Rama, Vishnu, all that is same. So, Devi means Saguna Brahma along with Prakriti, not Prakriti alone. Okay? Prakriti Yukta Paramatma is Devi. You are only seeing in a feminine form, that's all. It's like the same water you are seeing in a ice form or liquid form. See, Vishnu, Krishna, Rama, or Shiva, or Devi. What is the difference? One is in liquid form, another is ice cube form. But both are water. In being water, there is no difference. Whether you call Devi, whether you call Vishnu, it is same. Only the form differs. Female form and masculine form. Female means the very idea of female gives us certain feeling, certain respect, certain love and certain caring, certain understanding, motherly feeling. Therefore, we use it this thing. But the same Paramatma is mother, same Paramatma is father. Same water is liquid, same water is Pancha Brahmasanasena, he says. Same water is liquid, same water is solid. Ice cube, both, isn't it? Water is liquid, water is solid. So water can't be confined to only one form, whether liquid form or solid form. Solid form also water, liquid form also water. So Paramatma is Devi form, Paramatma is Purusha form. Okay. When you take Purusha form, you call Devi as associate. When you take Devi form, you take Shiva as his associate or her associate, her assistant or minister, her loving husband, loving assistant. Okay. Loving minister, very confidential loving minister. So Shiva becomes very confidential loving minister to her. A male bodyguard like that. Male bodyguard marry this thing. If you take Vishnu or Krishna or Rama, then woman is only her assistant or a loving wife to her. So it is in either way one Saguna Brahma. Don't divide that all Devi is all the time Prakriti and Vishnu or Shiva is all the time Chaitanyam. This division is only Sankhya. Don't impose like that. You forget this Sankhya thinking. Then only you understand. Now he says, Maya Prabhavena. Maya means Saguna Brahma's power. Saguna Brahma Srishti Sthiti Laya. Here some people include, Maya includes Vidya and Avidya. This is a peculiar prakriya. If you go by Vedanta, just tentatively leave aside Vedanta and see them. They say, this Maya means they take it in a broadest sense. Your Ragadvesha, your Maya, everything they take it. That means Maya Prabhavena Samsara Sthitikarina. Maya means God's power. God's power includes Tamoguna, Rajoguna, Sattvaguna. Tamoguna binds you, Rajoguna partly relieves you, Sattvaguna totally liberates you. Therefore, the very goddess or God. You can apply it to God also if you are a Vishnu Bhakta, Krishna Bhakta, Rama Bhakta. If you are a Devi Bhakta, like some people, as in Devi Bhakta, we apply to Devi only. So you can do to anybody. So Saguna Brahma has got a power. With the help of the power, that power brings the people into two ways, either in bondage or out of bondage. In bondage, out of bondage. It's like a fire. Fire is a neutral power. It can burn you, it can help you. Okay. Fire can burn you and can help you. Either way. That similarly, this Prakriti or God's power, Maya power, is a neutral. Neutral in the sense it can do two ways. It can harm you, it can help you. It can bind you, it can liberate you. So what is natural, what is instinctive, what is swabhavika binds you, what is consciously cultivated liberates you. Both are prakriti. One is a natural prakriti, another is cultivated, learnt by sadhana. You grow, you learn, you grow into. See, what you learn out of sadhana is liberating prakriti. What is instinctively present in you, swabhavika prakriti. Both put together is called maya. It is one prakriya. Okay, don't combine with your Vedantic prakriya. Vedanta has got somewhat differently telling. Each one according to their prakriya you have to listen. So maya means tamora guna, rajoguna as well as sattva guna. Lower gunas bind you, higher gunas free you. Therefore it is due to maya. By maya, this shloka means there is an instinctive problem in everybody. Instinctively every human being has got swabhavika adhyasa, as Vedanta says. Swabhavika ragadvesha, swabhavika, all this is a swabhavika, this is maya. The same maya shakti, here maya shakti means, see, maya word is used, one is a binding maya, liberating maya. Maya means Paramatma. Maya word is used in three senses. Maya means binding, tamoguna, rajoguna. Maya is liberating, that is sadhana, sattvaguna. Third, maya means sakshat Devi, which is a saguna Brahma. So maya used in three words. According to context you take it. Then it becomes clear to you. So maya binds you when you say, then you take it tamoguna, rajoguna. When it maya liberates you, then you say sattvaguna. Then maya is the supreme and she is everything, her leela, srishti means maya here means Devi. Devi means Saguna Brahma, Satchidananda Swarupini, associate with this thing. So each Shastra has its own way. People get mixed up. That's why this self-study is highly dangerous thing. You study from a guru. Guru also should be a traditional fellow who takes one tradition, and if he doesn't know the other traditions, he keeps on condemning other traditions. Okay? If you have not studied the other tradition thoroughly from Guru Mukata, don't talk about it. You say, I can teach you about my tradition, and I don't know about other tradition. You have to learn from that traditional guru, then they will explain. Study both the sampradayas from their own personal traditional gurus, then do samanvaya, it works. Okay? You require that much of patience, that much of maturity, openness. If you don't have it, teach your tradition and don't comment. This is the biggest mistake our Hindu gurus are doing. I am sorry, I seek their forgiveness. In fact, they don't go to teach, but it is Shishya's pressure they have to do that. He teaches, Ramana Maharshi, they have got their own teaching. They teach you. Their own anubhava, they teach you. But people keep on pressing, what about that? What about that? What about Bible? What about Quran? They keep on pressing. Okay, they'll give you some explanation. When you keep on pressing, you don't know. Okay, they'll give you, that is also Brahma. They will say, that's all. Jesus also Brahma. Okay, that also you do. This is only a concessional answer. In Sanskrit we call Tushyatu Durjana Nyaya. Telugunalli helabekadre ponle. ಪೋನ್ಲೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಬಿಡು, ಅವ್ರು ಕೇಳುತ್ತಾನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ಟಬ್ಬಾರ್ನ್ ಫೆಲೋ, ಬಿಡು, ಒಂದು ಯಾವುದೋ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟುಬಿಡು. ಸೊ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಈಚ್ ಗುರು ಹಿಸ್ ಓನ್ ಅನುಭವ, ಹಿಸ್ ಓನ್ ಸಾಧನ, ವಾಟ್ ಹಿ ಈಸ್ ಫೆಮಿಲಿಯರ್ ವಿತ್, ಹಿ ಈಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್. ಇಫ್ ಹಿ ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅದರ್ ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನ್ಸ್, ಅದರ್ ಸಾಧನಾಸ್, ಅದರ್ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಾಸ್, if he has not studied thoroughly from that guru, from that person. See, a learned people, great people like Ramana Maharshi don't have to study from a guru. But if they become familiar with the Shastra, they can explain. Ramana Maharshi has not studied from a guru Vedanta, but with his Anubhava, Brahma Jnana Anubhava, he took the Upanishads and the Panditas were there. He was just discussing, he touched them, he understands. You don't have to explain. You just touch it, he understands. Touch the topic, it's enough. Then he started explaining Vedanta beautifully like Shankaras. You can see Sushupti is Brahma, he told. Sushupti, there is no avidya, it's directly your Swarupam. Sushupti is not your avastha, it is you, he told. So, some places he explained very beautifully. So, Desha, Kala, Nama Rupa, whole Jagat is only Antakarana, Pratyaya Matram, Adhyasa Matram, many things he explained. So those people study, they can study very fast if they want. But if they have not studied other traditional sadhanas, upasanas, if the students, these bhaktas are such foolish fellows, they keep on pressurizing, adenu, idenu, what is that, what is this, what is that. So, unable to say, okay, because to maintain his shraddha, if you dismiss him, he will feel hurt. Okay, out of his compassion, okay, they give him some explanation. From the standpoint of Vedanta, they gave explanation to Bible and Quran. Okay. Now, don't take their explanations seriously, because they are putting all Vedanta into Bible and Quran and other religion. And Hindus told, oh, Guruji told, therefore all religions are same. It is utter your foolishness. For sake of you, it is a Tushyatu Durjana Nyaya in Sanskrit. It is a concessional answer. Just to please you given the answer. It is not that he has studied the tradition thoroughly and then their paddhati, their methods, their symbols, their implications, their idea, their diksha. He just doesn't know. But he knows the real truth. The method he doesn't know, but he knows the real truth because he is Anubhavagnya. Okay. Our gurus, Hindu gurus, are Anubhavagnyas. They may not know other traditions. Therefore, they interpret those symbols and ideas, concepts from our standpoint. Already in his Anubhava standpoint, they are interpreting. So, this is all artificial interpretation which doesn't exist in that tradition. Therefore, don't take their interpretations seriously because they were given under the pressure of certain foolish disciples. Foolish in the sense, too innocent also, partly innocent, partly foolish. They are not really wicked fellows. The disciples are too innocently foolish, I can say. Innocently foolish. If you explain, they can't understand. If you dismiss them, they feel hurt. Okay, they give some explanation. I am giving that explanation because I too face some people. If I try to give explanation, they can't understand. No, that is wrong, Andre. No, our guru told like that. No, how can you dismiss it? That guru told all religions are same. Abba, even now what am I to do? This fellow is incapable of understanding if I want to explain. Then I have to take into consideration his foolish belief. Okay, I also give, okay, that is true, but it is true in a particular context, in particular way. Okay, leave it. He feels satisfied. So we have to cater for his foolishness, his naivete. That means it is too innocent behavior and also partly foolishness. Now we have to cater to them. So I too give sometimes such explanation. But I know them that I am giving only explanation for this kind of person. Otherwise, for unable to understand this explanation, our guru's teaching given to these innocent, thoughtless people, they made them into Siddhanta. And that is a shapa has become to our Hindus, Hindu society. All religions are same has become biggest shapa. Okay. And this is just a side issue. They're coming to the topic. I think there are many topics. Anyway, in the 9 days, I cover as much as I can because the topic is big, but it's very interesting, very useful thing. Upasana Shastra is very good. Our Hinduism is not only Vedanta. If you take Dharma Shastra, we have got best Dharma Shastra. Nowhere in the world. It is a universal Dharma and also contextual Dharma. Situational Dharma and universal Dharma. This kind of explanation, nowhere you find. I challenge you. No religion can explain to you. Universal Dharma and also that is applicable to a given person, given context, given situation. Situational Dharma. Dharma has got such a deeper understanding which can be convincing. We have got a very good philosophy, convincing philosophy based upon Anubhava. You go to Upasana. We have got such an excellent Upasana Shastra. Very broadest, multi-level and multi-angles. Multi-angled Upasana Shastra. The concept of Bhagavanta, concept of Upasana, concept of sadhanas. How many variety. Each one has got its own beauty, its own depth. Differently. I think nowhere you will find such Upasana Shastra. And you come to Vedanta, of course, is the highest thing if you come to philosophy. Anything you take in Hinduism, whether you take a Karmakanda, that is Dharma, Karmakanda also. Rituals, we have got excellent rituals. Very beautiful, logical, convincing. Whatever the roguish person also, it inspires you. Most stubborn person, it can appeal to you, it can mold you, it can change you, it can inspire you. We have got different varieties of karma because some people have got a peculiar mind. No karma affects him. For such a person, we require a special karma which even such person it can attract and change him. Because we have designed different levels of karma, keeping the different levels of people in view. Some people are very boring, disgusting, stubborn people. Even for that you require a special karma. So only thing is that selecting the what karma suits what type of person. This selecting a process, Sampradaya is lost. Lost means it is rarely existing. Otherwise, karma, dharma, Karma Shastra, Dharma Shastra, Upasana Shastra and Jnana Shastra. These 4 kinds of Shastras, the way we have got in Hinduism, nowhere you find in the world. The depth is there, width is there, and also contextual customization. Customizing it, applying it to the various contexts, also it has got principles. I tell you, don't underestimate it. Your Hinduism, you are so lucky. I tell you, nobody is there like you on the earth. If you are born Hindu, you must be a special Rishi in your Purva Janma. You must have done lot of punya, otherwise you won't be born as a Hindu. You are lucky to belong to this tradition. which has got excellent explanations, and feel proud and never leave Hinduism. Whatever you want, you find here. You'll find somewhere. Only thing is you have to search for them, because every guru may not know and things are scattered. You have to search for, like in dictionary you have to search. It is not alphabetical order. Suppose there is a dictionary without alphabetical order. What do? Hinduism is like a dictionary without alphabetical order. Okay? Hinduism is a dictionary without alphabetical order. You find everything, but it is difficult to search. It has got some order, but it has got its own order. Have you heard like this? A dictionary without alphabetical order. All words are found. Every word is found there. Every explanation, every sadhana, everything is found in Hinduism. Only thing is it is not alphabetical. Therefore, don't underestimate Hinduism. If you looked for one word, you could not find it. Boy, you got frustrated, I'll leave the Hinduism. No, don't leave it. Don't leave the dictionary, because no other dictionary can cover. This dictionary is a comprehensive dictionary. Hinduism is a comprehensive religion, addressing to the whole humanity. Not only humanity, even Pitraloka, Devaloka, Sargaloka, Sarva Devata, Sarva Jiva Rashi. Until Brahmaloka, even our Veda applies. Okay? Veda has something to teach even to the people living in Brahmaloka. It can teach you Vedanta. It can teach you Tattvamasi. Even to the people who have reached the Brahmaloka level, Veda has got something to teach. It has got something to teach people of all levels. Okay? It has got teaching for all levels. Therefore, never underestimate it. It is too big, therefore you are underestimating. Because a baby, Hindus are behaving like a baby. Baby wanted chocolate. It really happened. I tell you, it happened. Baby wanted chocolate. In those days, 1 paisa you will get 2 chocolates. 2 biscuits and 2 we call them sakkar goli. Sakkar goli means 2 sugar pills. Sugar golis. 2 sugar pills we would get. Pill means slightly bigger pill. So for 1 paisa, 1 copper paisa. So then they asked it, the baby asked, okay, he gave 100 rupees. Baby, you know what happened? The boy threw the rupee note. He says, I don't want, I want chocolate. We all laughed like anything. 1 rupee note, you can give you 200 chocolates, you get it. Baby says, I don't want this paper. He says, I want chocolate. We are like this. We say Hinduism is too big, is 1 rupee given. No, say we give up Hinduism and go to other religion. There is nothing. Not even half chocolate you get there. Not even half chocolate. It is a bitter chocolate. Not even sugary chocolate. So therefore it is like a 1 rupee. It is a too big. Only you have to have little patience and search for it. You will find. For all problems you have solutions here. Okay. We have got all shastras, economic problems, social, shastra on economic, shastra on politics, shastra on society, shastra on dharma, karma, upasana, jnana. There is nothing Hinduism doesn't cover. Okay? It is a so broadest thing. Okay, start. We come to the Maya. Okay, he says, there is an instinctively problem in you. There is a Maya. Mahamaya prabhavena samsara sthitikarina tannatra vismayakaryo yoga nidra jagatpate. So Devi is there. Because of that, yogi's lower power, that is tamoguna, rajoguna, yogi's power, Devi's power, the Maya's power, yoga Maya power, you are suffering. But I tell you, we can give you a solution. You invoke the other aspect of Devi, Sattvika aspect and Nirguna aspect. That is still higher aspect of Devi. You pray to her, she will wake up. Once she wakes up, she will stop, she will solve all your problems. Therefore, Mahamaya Hareschaisha Taya Sammohyate Jagat. This Maya deludes people. Maya doesn't delude. Maya being incomprehensible, you feel deluded. Maya is of different levels, different capacity, different power. It is everything. Just like the world. Does world delude you? World doesn't delude you. World has got good and bad, and there is Vedanta, is there sadhana, is there wickedness, is there villainy, is there or terrorists are there, everything is there in the world. Poison is there, amrita is there, everything is there in the world. World consists of everything like supermarket. Therefore, you get confused. You get deluded seeing the Maya. World is not deluding you. In that sense, Maya deludes. Maya deludes a person. Therefore, Mahamaya Hareschaisa Tayo Sammohyate Jagat Jnaninam api Chetamsi. This shloka is a good shloka, important shloka for that. Sapta shloki, Sapta Shloki, Durga Saptashati, in that Sapta Shloki, this shloka is selected. Okay, I repeat it. Jnaninamapi chetamsi Devi Bhagavati Hisa Balada Krishya Mohaya Mahamaya Prayachati. Devi, even the Jnani's mind, she deludes, she attracts and puts you into the moha. Therefore, Maya is so powerful. It has done the Maya, don't worry. It is not your personal weakness, it is a part of nature. The idea is, don't blame yourself individually. It is something like when you are hungry, don't blame yourself, you are hungry. When you fall sick, don't feel that you are sick. Because hunger, disease, fever and etc., they are part of nature. Similarly, if you are deluded, if you are disturbed, if you are worried, your family cheated you, you lost kingdom, this is also part of nature. Don't put it on yourself personally as if either you are personally cheated or you are personally responsible. Don't take it too personally. See it as a large flow of Prakriti. You are a part of it. Don't worry. Look at it from a larger angle. But the same Devi, if you pray to her, there is a way. Now he says how the Devi is born. Now you pray to her, and now next the king questions. Now how to do that? Saisha prasanna varada nunam bhavati muktaye. Now if you pray to that Prakriti or pray to that Devi, if is prasanna, she will help you to understand. She will help you. If you want kama, if you want artha purushartha, she will give you. Dharma, she will give you. She will give you moksha. Because she is like everything. That Mayik lady, Mayik Devi, divine lady, Mayik Devi, who consists of all powers of the nature, all powers of the universe, all powers of the universe, all situations of the universe. She is such broadest, and she can bless you. She can liberate you from samsara, or within the samsara she can give you certain power, kingdom, money, pleasure, whatever you want. Then the king asks the question, king and this thing. Then how to pray to her, how to approach her, how to this thing. So how she was born. Now she has to be told her birth. He asks about that. Shrotumichami tvatto brahma vidamvara. So Devi's birth will be told. This birth also is a very interesting birth. We'll tell tomorrow. Now time is up. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.